Let's Corp is the technology company behind Let's Respond, one of the most sought after smart solutions by law enforcement to prevent and de escalate crises. Visit http://www.letscorp.us/respond to learn more. Hey, you're listening to Policing Matters on policeone.com. I'm your host, Jim Dudley. Well, welcome back if you are a regular viewer, and if not, welcome and check us out on our YouTube channel as well. So, as our nation commemorates National Police Week, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agent, CISA, the Office for Bombing Prevention, the OBP, reflects on the critical role law enforcement plays in keeping our nation safe, especially when it comes to explosive devices. OBP's partnership with law officials is vital to CISA's mission in safeguarding the nation's critical infrastructure. Local police are integral to the implementation of OBP's bomb-making materials awareness program, which raises awareness about dangerous devices and malicious actors. Well, today's guest is Jeff Dade. Section Chief Dade has been with the CISA Office for Bombing Prevention since September 2023. He served as both the Technical Assistance Branch Current Operations and Technology Integration Leads. In this capacity, Mr. Dade has worked to implement counter-improvised explosive device action and sustainment plans in state and local jurisdictions as part of OBP's Technical Assistance Program, building capacity at the state and local level for security and resilience from IED attacks. Well, welcome to Policing Matters, Jeff Dade.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
So thanks for taking time to talk to us about the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA. I don't know that many are familiar with the agency and what services you provide. Could you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, it's America's cyber defense agency and is the national coordinator for critical infrastructure security and resilience. So within the DHS umbrella, it's one of the components, no different than CBP or FEMA, et cetera, but it's a newer one. It's only been around, within the last 10 years. And as a result, as a baby agency, we're growing, but OBP that's been around since DHS's onset is glad to be a component on the infrastructure security side. We're designed for collaboration and partnership. And we work within all levels of government to provide all levels of security, physical security for the nation's critical infrastructure.
Great. And post 9/11, now, we're 23 years past 9/11, and it seems to me like as if we are letting our guard down a little bit as a nation. We scrambled immediately after 9/11 to evaluate all our cities, to assess our critical infrastructure, to look for security and vulnerability. We've done updates over the years, but with new technology, are we keeping ahead of the current threats?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And that's a concern for all of us every single day. With new technology, that has certainly provided new avenues for explosive attacks. And, some good examples, even, to go above and beyond just explosives, is the 3D printing of weapons, for example. I mean, there's 3D printing of guns, edge weapons, et cetera, but also bomb making components, which is a whole new avenue of attack that we're concerned about. Some new, even newer evolutions that we're concerned about with respect to technology is artificial intelligence, even being used to develop high fidelity homemade explosives and other weapons of mass destruction. These are very much concerns. But to that end, technology is an interesting thing where we can also leverage it to counter those threats. the tactics, techniques, and procedures, at the high level to defeat many of these improvised explosive devices have remained the same. And a lot of these new technologies that, on one hand, might be threats, can also be used for us to get ahead of those threats. But really, to the heart of your question, to the extent that our best intelligence allows us to stay ahead of the threats, I think we have. It's always what we don't know that you have to be concerned about, which is why, quite frankly, we have to remain vigilant and not become complacent.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, I mean, cybersecurity, it's in your title, and we keep hearing about it all the time. We keep hearing about balloons overhead and drones that are coming from the same place. And I think there's been a couple of adjustments since then. I just came back from the Axon conference. I've talked to Brink, and they're both American-made drones, and we seem to be seeing more of those in law enforcement.
Yeah, so I mean, UAS is an interesting thing, or drones, for lack of a better word, right? Unmanned aerial systems. So you can really divide those in this mission set into, you can divide it, into two different things, right? It's an emergent threat and also an emerging technology that benefits law enforcement on many fronts. So to the extent that drones are emergent threats due to their ability to carry IEDs or bombs. We do provide a lot of awareness training and products to recognize this as a threat through our outreach programs. You mentioned one in your introduction, the bomb making awareness program. We try to get the word out so that we can interdict the materials before they can use to turn a drone into a bomb. We have an explosive blast modeling program which can inform special event security planners and critical infrastructure owners about the potential risks and the consequences that are posed by drones carrying IEDs to those events and facilities. And the hope is that that could lead to the adoption of mitigation measures. But again, to what I said before, once a drone that's suspected as an IED or an improvised explosive device lands on the ground, it's treated as just that, any other suspect item or improvised explosive device. So the tactics, techniques, and procedures that kind of go along with that remain unchanged.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and with my former agency, I know we had to scramble if someone left our unit, our EOD, our bomb unit. We had a robust canine and EOD, and we had multiple bomb robots. Are we keeping ahead with demand to train new people and canines? We're going through such a transition and flux in staffing and recruiting in law enforcement. How can an agency increase capacity?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, a great thing to discuss. It's something that's certainly near and dear to me because you know prior to my coming to the Office for Bombing Prevention, I was a state level bomb squad commander with the New Hampshire State Police, and we were facing the same issues in New Hampshire that we were seeing nationwide, and that's that state and local public safety organizations as a whole are facing these unprecedented staffing shortages for a myriad of reasons. And I mean, that's a whole nother podcast, right, Jim? There's so many reasons for that. But the result of that is, there has to be a prioritization of resources. Resources are finite. They're not unlimited. So, agencies, they do what they have to do. You have to prioritize those 911 responsibilities. That's a core obligation. And that tends to shift away the attention and resources from special services such as explosive detection canines, bomb squads. They either can't be staffed or they can't afford to take the time to train appropriately. It's a real problem. So, one of the best solutions that we see where there are success stories is for agencies to increase capacity through the pooling of those resources on a regional basis. As they say, many hands make light work. And by taking that regional approach, at all levels of government, be it municipal, county, or state, utilizing task force arrangements or mutual aid agreements, that can be a force multiplier. And in doing so, clearly we're still getting the job done, just not in the best of circumstances.
Sure, I know you talk about the myriad of overlays from local, county, state, and federal agencies. sometimes we don't think about the U.S. Postal Service and some of their resources that are available to us.
No question. Yeah, the Postal Service is an interesting one because you've got a federal level organization that, you would, one, it's often a lot of people aren't aware of it. And their authorities, anything that touches the mail, they have authorities over. So their reach is really quite far. And then you take it one step further. They've got very specialized, highly technical resources that they can bring to bear. As long as you can argue your case touches the mail, they are a force multiplier.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, I want to ask you about some other resources available to local law enforcement, but first I'd like to take a moment and thank our sponsor. Endorsed by law enforcement agencies from LA to New York, Let's Respond helps bring enhanced awareness and safer resolutions in response to hostage crisis situations. With Let's Respond, you'll instantly save costs and improve time to response and resolution without ever needing to deal with the hassle of setting up a throw phone. Explore the benefits firsthand by visiting letscorp.com/respond. That's letscorp.com/respond. And we're back, and I'm speaking with Section Chief Jeff Dade, CISA, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, and the Office for Bomb Prevention. And yeah, that sounds like a great idea, bomb prevention. I remember after 9/11, we were trained to look for all of the different possible things that could add up to a bomb. Are we doing more to identify the different components of bomb making at sales point level or shipping point level?
We are. So part of our national outreach with the Office for Bombing Prevention is the Bomb Making Materials Awareness Program, or we call it BMAP. And it's a success story. It represents one of the best ways to detect and report suspicious purchasing behaviors. And if you really think about it, Jim, this is just an extension of S4, right? See something, say something. But it's just focused on bomb making materials and focused on where those materials are likely to come from the most. So through that program, it informs and educates retailers and the public about recognizing bomb making materials and reporting suspicious activity. In fact, according to Data Axle, there are over 250,000 point of sale businesses that in the United States that sells items that could be used for nefarious purposes, to include building bombs. So through this program, we have representatives that work directly for the Office for Bombing Prevention, and we also have different outreach partnerships with other organizations where they actually go out to those point of sale businesses to educate them. And then in turn, the hope is that, when they see some sort of nefarious activity or they suspect illegal behavior, that they'll report it to local law enforcement. Localities are starting to implement this program. Most recently, Austin, Texas launched their own bomb making materials awareness program in coordination with OBP. And we look at that as a best practice.
Great. Well, let's see. We know we have a certain capability at our major cities with critical infrastructure. How can a department surrounding a major city get trained to add support? We talked about this often. After 9/11, I was part of a group where we talked within our different departments: police, fire, EMS, public health, public works. And we felt like we had a pretty good plan within the city. But in actuality, if we were a target of a large event, it's going to be the outlying areas that are really going to provide most of the post incident support. Are we doing enough for them as well?
I mean, we're doing what we can, right? I think so. So, we certainly have these capabilities in the major cities, those UICs, but a lot of the training and resources, the products that OBP provides, are nationwide. Everybody benefits from them. We offer a vast range of free training tools to help those state and local authorities at all levels outside of the UICs to better understand and mitigate, explosive devices and the risks associated with that. And the key with these things is that um, they're flexible and scalable for the types of outlying smaller jurisdictions that you speak of. In other words, they can do these things anywhere at any time. A lot of the training options that we provide are web-based. Some are asynchronous, they're independent study training programs. Some are virtual instructor led. So, I mean, you're taking the course remotely, but you've got a live instructor on the other side of the screen that you can engage with. And then also there's in-resident training courses, and we have mobile training teams that'll even come to you to provide that training. But the key with all of this is that there's no cost associated with it. We also can enhance departments' preparedness by providing them a wide array of awareness products. I think you were sort of alluding to those posters, the suspicious package posters and bomb threat cards, things like that. Those things still exist. We update them, and we stand by ready to provide them to any jurisdiction that wants them.
Yeah, for sure. Very useful. And the training that you're talking about, we would access free training through FEMA, through TEACS, through University of New Mexico. They have a great bomb school there. I'm sure you've been to those.
I have, I'm very familiar with all of them. So really what you're speaking to is the National Domestic Preparedness Consortium, which, Department of Homeland Security funds, and it's a myriad of schools across the country that have different levels of instruction for different threats. So New Mexico Tech, out in New Mexico, the Energetic Materials Training and Research Center is where you would have attended those schools that you just mentioned. And those are great. FEMA, which is also a component of that consortium, is where all of the Office for Bombing Prevention's trainings reside. And those the resident courses, those occur down at the Center for Domestic Preparedness in Anniston, Alabama. All high quality training. Highly recommend them all.
Yeah, ditto with you. Okay, so how about AI? AI is the new threat, right? Artificial intelligence, cyber threats, drone capabilities are so advanced. I just mentioned I was at Axon. I saw their de-drone program. It's great that we have those. I don't know how much they are in use, but sometimes we might be able to get a signal that a drone was approaching even from miles out. Are we keeping ahead of nefarious drone activity?
So the short answer to that question, Jim, is that that's a bit out of the Office for Bombing Prevention's wheelhouse. That counter drone aspect that law enforcement would want to be able to use. But what I can tell you is that another organization within CISA, within our security programs subdivision, they have a whole unit, a whole branch that is devoted to just that. And what I can tell you is that, I mean, they're working tirelessly every day to try to stay ahead of that very issue.
Yeah. Okay, so if a city is planning for a major event, a national special security event, the NESI, what types of support can CISA provide?
Yeah, so national special security events, and to some extent even your CR1 events, CISA through its regional staff, the protective security advisors, can assist in a whole lot of ways as far as coordination and all that. But direct resources that the Office for Bombing Prevention would provide, right at the top would be explosive blast modeling. If you have an arena or some other mass gathering venue, uh, we can bring in a couple of our analysts. They will take in the necessary information and provide a model of what the consequences of an explosive attack would be to both life safety and the infrastructure itself. And as I mentioned before, that can inform the security planning. You might be able to adopt measures that would mitigate that risk. Another thing we would provide is training, as we've already talked about, is that leading up to those events is once we've identified a national special security event, we want to make sure that we know that all of the jurisdictions that are relevant, to include the private sector, private security responsible for those venues, have the opportunity to take whatever training that they can or want. And then there's technical assistance through community level assessment so that we can figure out what gaps exist or don't exist. Community level assessments are great, by the way. The entire assessment process, because it's both at the community level and at the unit level, is that OBP can send a team to an area where they will assess all of the major disciplines: fire, medical, law enforcement, the bomb squad, emergency management, to see right at the heart of bombing prevention, that mission set is what is their level of preparedness, and then provide them with a report as to what are the free government resources that will help them, for lack of a better word, buy down that risk ahead of that event. Huge resource to an area, particularly those areas that aren't accustomed to holding those events, to figure out where the gaps are. Because like we say, sometimes you just don't know what you don't know, right? And then right down to CISA OBP, we have provided direct technical assistance where we actually put boots on the ground to work with our CISA regional staff. This includes a whole host of things. I mean, direct integration with the local bomb squad, right up to the federal coordinating team, some soft target security assets to include what is called the Ready Armor Protection for Instant Deployment Barrier, which is this fantastic blast wall that really changes the consequence of a improvised explosive device attack. Most recently, this last Super Bowl in Las Vegas this past February, that was sent out there to help protect the NFL honors, wildly successful. Those are just some different examples of that direct NSSE, that National Special Security Event support that we can provide.
Nice. And so when you come out and do an assessment, your team comes out, is it a red team kind of assessment, or they work in conjunction with all those other agencies?
Yeah, so furthest thing from a red team, but I'm tracking right where you're going with that, Jim. So the assessment team would be just a couple of subject matter experts, some bombing prevention specialists that will conduct interviews across those different disciplines, right? Emergency management, law enforcement, the medical sector, um, and fire. And from that, they will try to extract what is the level of preparedness. In other words, how much training have their staff had? Is it recurring? Do they have, like, does everybody get the training once, but then they never sustain it and get it again? And just look for those areas where you can build capacity and raise their level of preparedness. Unit level assessments are more specific, and those can get aggregated into the overall community. So what's an example of a unit level assessment? The bomb squad would be one. The SWAT team, special weapons and tactics team, would be another. Explosive detection canine, yet another. Dive teams. All those units can be assessed. Now, that's something they actually do on their own. It's online. They fill out the questions, and afterwards it presents those units with a color-coded report, and it shows where their capability is very high, where it's in the middle, where they could probably do a few things to elevate their capacity. And that's a huge asset when you're trying to talk to agency executives about where they should invest resources, to elevate preparedness as a whole, but certainly ahead of a special event.
Yeah, for sure. Well, great resources. We're going to run those down, give you a couple of links at the bottom of our show. Thanks so much, Jeff Dade, Section Chief for CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, and the Office for Bombing Prevention. Thanks for taking time with us today.
Thank you for having us. We really appreciate all your help in getting the word out.
All right. Yeah, and to the agencies out there listening, what's your capacity and how do you increase it? Well, you just heard there's a lot of free training out there. It's good training, and it's just as Jeff said, it's a perishable skill. So, I went several years ago. I would imagine I'm probably about running at like 30% capacity. So, yeah, get back out there, renew those skills, build up those levels of expertise so that you're your own expert at your own agency. All right. Hope you enjoyed the show. Drop us an email at policingmatters@policeone.com. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you have concerns or if you missed something on the podcast that we can help you with. That's Policing Matters at policeone.com. Take good care. Talk to you again real soon.